So here's the problem. You're a real estate agent. It's a fantastic real estate market. You sell the house quickly for a great price. What's the seller think? They underpriced the house and they overpaid you. Here's the other scenario. It's a really bad real estate market and it's taking a long time to sell the house. What's the client think? That you're not doing your job and they're paying you too much. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Client management in a good market and in a bad market. So what we're really talking about is how to communicate to your client and how often to do that in different markets. So here's the first thing that I do. When I take a listing and I'm sitting down with the seller and it's all signed up and we're kind of relaxing now and it's more of a fun, if that's the right word, atmosphere. There's no pressure. I start asking a client, how do you want me to communicate to you? And if they go, well, what do you mean? I say, well, how often would you like me to update you? I can update you when we get an offer on the property and give you a call. I can update you every single week. I can update you every 2 days. I can update you after every showing. I can update you after every open house. How often would you like to be updated? And once I establish that, then I ask them what medium would they like me to update them through. Is it email? Is it text? Is it through Messenger on Facebook? Is it a telephone call? Yeah, and the answer to that question varies a lot, and it's not just age dependent, meaning that older people want the phone call and younger people want the Facebook Messenger or whatever it happens to be, or the text. So don't just assume if they're younger or older clients how they want to be communicated to and how often they want to be communicated to. Sometimes I deal with people in fairly high business positions that say, Daryl, when you get an offer, call me. Up until that point, I don't need to know. And I've had other clients who, I suppose needy would be the correct terminology, and they want me to call them every 2 days, and I accommodate them because I'm going to get paid well for this job. So however they want to be communicated to and through whatever medium that is, I make sure I accommodate them. I really suppose the whole conversation is client expectation. How do you manage your client expectations? So I'll give you an example. Someone says something very negative about the house. In other words, that client walks in and they go, oh my God, Daryl, this house stinks. Or, oh my God, is this rented? And you say, no, it's not. They go, oh my God, the furniture is horrendous. Do I give the client that feedback unfiltered? Well, again, depends on your client. Stepping back at the listing presentation after I've got it signed, I not only ask them about how they want to be communicated to, but when I receive feedback, if that feedback is a bit negative or a bit nasty, do you want me to sugarcoat it a little to soften it, or do you want to hear it as it's said? And depending upon what the answer is, depends on how I communicate that to them. If the client says the house smells because it may be a smoker's house, I will tell them that if that's how they want to be communicated to. And it's the same for positive feedback. You also have to be very careful about positive feedback. People will go in and go, oh my God, I absolutely love this house. Do I want to give that to the client just like that? Because sometimes that may raise their expectation, and then when they get an offer a little bit under this price, they might go, hang on, Daryl, everybody loves the house. Let's hold out for that person that loves it and writes a great offer. So again, it's about managing their expectation. I suppose the best term that I ever heard was my job is emotional detachment. Here's the buyer, here's the seller, I'm in the middle and I provide emotional detachment. So if someone says a house stinks, I don't let the seller attach. That's my telephone, I'm not going to answer that. I will leave that in the video. I won't let the seller attach to that negative comment. Same as if it's a positive comment, my job, emotional detachment, I won't let the seller attach to that positive comment either. What about this one? You get a low offer on the property. Do you just go to the seller and say, hey, it's a crap offer, it's low, let's throw it out? Again, if you're managing the client's expectation, is that the best thing to do? I mean, yes, your job as an agent is to sell the house, but the way you present information to them will make it easier for them to make a decision. Your job, emotional detachment, and to help them to the next decision, to help them to the next decision, to help them to the next decision. You don't want a client just sitting back not being able to make a decision. So if you get a low offer, definitely tell the client what you think. If you think you can get more for the house, be honest and tell them that. Don't just try and beat them up to take that low offer quickly. Or if you've been on the market for 3 months, don't beat them up just to take it because you haven't gotten another offer. Yeah, I suppose what I'm saying is be honest with the client, and the client will sense that and will appreciate. So part of and probably a big part of client management, is being honest with the client. But that is all set up in the listing presentation. What about multiple offers? Same thing. Just because you get 3 offers on a property doesn't mean that's fantastic. I've had multiple offers on a property before, and I've lost every single one because I mismanaged the process. So again, my job is to manage expectation, is to manage the process. So getting 3 offers doesn't mean, hey, let's just go back at a hard price, or let's go back and say, submit your first, final, last, and best offer, because sometimes you may lose all 3. So I explained to my client, again, client management, it depends on each buyer's personality as to if I go back to them and put them in a bidding situation, or if I go back to them and reject one of them and give the other 2 a chance to bid against each other, or if I reject all 3 and say, come back with your last and your final offer, and the seller will just accept one without a counter offer. So again, understanding the client's expectation, the listing, and then also understanding the type of buyers will help you manage the whole process. And this also can tie in with when your listing is getting close to the expiration date. So you've had the listing for this amount of time, you might have had activity, but it obviously hasn't sold, that's why it's expiring. How do you handle that? The worst thing you can do is go to the client and say, hey, can you give me another chance? Well, why? You failed there. It shouldn't get to almost the end of the listing period before you go to the client, hey, can I have another chance? You need to be managing that from the beginning. And there's lots of different ways to do that, but the biggest one is communication. If you don't communicate with your client on a very regular basis and how they want to be communicated to, when that listing gets close to the end, you're probably not going to be able to keep it. So again, client management starts on the front end, not the back end. Back to what I originally said at the start, it's a fantastic market. You put the property on the market, you get multiple offers, it sells for full price, and the seller says you didn't earn your money. You have to be ready for that in a good market. Good markets to me are sometimes harder than normal or bad markets for this very reason. There's no evidence of hard work in our industry. In other words, a client doesn't get to sit with you at 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday evening while you're working. So part of our job at the listing presentation is saying things like, Bob, Mary, hey, let me throw a scenario at you. We list a property, we get multiple offers, it sells the next day for full price. Would that be okay with you? Right, so you're getting their permission for a quick sale. Right, and then if you do that, they will understand that they didn't just pay you for that one job, they paid you for your experience that you've brought to the table in positioning the property, attracting the right buyer, and getting the right price straight off the bat. So again, it goes back to educating the client at the start of the process. And conversely, Bob, Mary, let's say we've been on the market 2 months, we've had almost no activity and no offers. How would that make you feel? And listen, close your mouth, listen. Find out how that would make them feel. Would they feel like you as an agent haven't done their job? Would you feel like, or would they say something like, well, gosh, that would just mean it's a bad market? So you need to know how they're going to feel when it's a great result or when you're getting a bad result, and then how do you manage that expectation? Well, again, it goes back to the initial listing presentation. And I'll end on this one because it just happened to me, and right now it's August 2020. I'm in Australia selling real estate. And I had a situation where we as a company had made a mistake. And the client came to me and the client was unhappy, very unhappy. This is on the listing. I won't go into details about what it was, but we'd screwed up as a company, as an agent. I say as a company, I had screwed up and made a pretty big error. So I said to the client, you know how it's going to work? I made the error. I'm going to compensate you, and this has cost me in the thousands. I'm going to compensate you for the error. I'm going to make it right. And I said to the client, I looked him in the eye, I said, I hate it when companies make mistakes and all they say is, oops, sorry, and there's no consequence. So I said, I'm putting a monetary consequence or penalty on myself to show you that that was the wrong thing or the wrong way to handle that situation. The client loves me. It's now, I think, 2 or 3 days later. Today is Wednesday, so it's 2 days later. Client loves me. They just called me this morning. We had a quick chat and they reiterated again to me how much they appreciated me just taking responsibility. So the fact I made a mistake had become irrelevant. The fact I took responsibility has now guaranteed me that business moving forward. And it cost me a couple grand. I'm still going to make a profit from the transaction, but the lesson is a big one. When you have a complaint, you make a mistake within the process, take responsibility for it, and that will allow you to move forward with the client. And so that's it for client management. Again, all these topics can be hours long. So if you want something specific, please make a comment. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be reminded for the next video. And that's it. Go out, list something, sell something, and have a great week and be positive.